In 1922, in the quiet countryside of Bavaria, Germany, a small farm sat isolated between fields and forest. It was called Hinterkaifeck. 6 people lived there, a family that kept to themselves. But strange things had already begun happening on the farm, weeks before the murders. Footprints appearing in the snow that led toward the house, but never away. Strange noises in the attic, and a missing house key. Then, on the night of March 31st, 1922, something happened inside that farmhouse that would become one of the most disturbing, unsolved crimes in European history. Tonight we're talking about the Hinterkaifeck murders. The farm belonged to Andreas Gruber and his wife Cecilia. They lived there with their widowed daughter Victoria, her 2 children, and a recently hired maid. It was an ordinary rural farm, but in the days before the murders, Andreas began noticing things that made him uneasy. One day, he found fresh footprints in the snow leading from the forest toward the farmhouse. But when he followed them, there were no footprints leading back. It was as if someone had walked to the farm and never left. Soon after, Andreas reported hearing strange footsteps coming from the attic late at night. When he checked, no one was there. And then something even stranger happened. A house key disappeared. The family searched everywhere, but the key was never found. Whoever had taken it might already have been inside the house. On March 31st, 1922, something happened inside the barn. Investigators believe one member of the family was lured outside. When they entered the barn, they were attacked. One by one, 4 members of the family were killed there. The weapon was believed to be a mattock, a farming tool similar to a pickaxe. The victims were struck repeatedly. Later that night, the killer entered the farmhouse. Inside, the youngest child was found in his crib, and the new maid had only arrived that very day. Both were also killed. By morning, all 6 people on the farm were dead. But what investigators discovered next was even more disturbing. Days passed before anyone discovered the crime. Neighbors noticed something was wrong when the family failed to appear in town. When investigators arrived, they made a shocking discovery. It appeared the killer had remained on the farm for several days after the murders. The cattle had been fed, the fireplace had been used, fresh meals had been prepared. Someone had even slept in the beds, and smoke had been seen rising from the chimney. Whoever committed the murders didn't run. They stayed, living among the victims, in the same farmhouse where the bodies lay hidden. The investigation that followed was massive. Hundreds of suspects were questioned. Travelers, neighbors, former workers, even members of the family. But no one was ever charged. And the case slowly became one of Germany's most famous unsolved crimes. The farmhouse itself stood for another year, then it was demolished. But even during the demolition, workers reported finding strange things, hidden areas in the house, and signs that someone may have been watching the family long before the murders. To this day, more than a century later, no one knows exactly who committed the Hinterkaifeck murders, or why. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of the most disturbing mysteries in European history. A family isolated on a farm, strange warnings before the crime, and a killer who may have been hiding in the house the entire time, more than 100 years later. The question still remains. Was it someone the family knew, a stranger from the forest, or someone who had been living quietly above them, watching, waiting? Like and subscribe for more stories like these.